The lake shimmered like glass that morning, sunlight reflecting off still water, birds gliding over it lazily. It was the same view I'd cherished every day before I left for Jamaica. That lake wasn't just part of my property, it was my peace, my escape from the chaos of HOA politics. When I volunteered to help with hurricane relief in Jamaica, everyone in the neighborhood praised me. Even Gina, our smug HOA president, pretended to be impressed. "That's such a noble thing, Emma," she said, smiling too hard. "Don't worry, we'll look after things while you're gone." I should have known better. After 2 exhausting months rebuilding homes and handing out supplies in Kingston, I finally came back home, eager for quiet mornings and coffee by the lake. But as soon as I turned down my driveway, I froze. My lake, my private lake, was packed. Boats everywhere, not just small ones. Massive gleaming yachts lined the shoreline like a luxury boat parade. Some were tied to my dock, others floating right near my porch. The water that once mirrored the sky now reflected hulls, ropes, and the ugly pride of the rich. A man in sunglasses yelled, "Hey, don't step too close to the water, we're filming a promo shoot." I blinked. "Excuse me, this is my property," he scoffed. "Talk to the HOA, they cleared it." Rage surged through me. I stormed straight to the HOA clubhouse. Gina was there, sipping an iced coffee, chatting with 2 men in business suits. She looked up with a smirk that told me she'd been waiting for this confrontation. "Welcome back, Emma. The community looks fantastic, doesn't it?" "You turned my lake into a parking lot," I hissed. She shrugged. "Technically, it's a shared asset under HOA jurisdiction. Some of our members needed storage during the marina renovations. We figured it was mutually beneficial." I stared at her in disbelief. "You rented my lake while I was gone?" "You weren't using it," she said simply. I walked out before I could say something worse. My heart was pounding, but my mind was already turning. I wasn't just angry, I was curious, because something about Gina's tone told me she knew she was lying. That night, I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out my original deed. My finger traced over the line I'd never paid attention to before. Lot 11 includes full ownership of the adjoining water body. A slow smile crept across my face. "Shared asset, huh? Let's see about that." The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by coffee cups, old HOA newsletters, and legal documents spread like a war map. The more I read, the more my frustration sharpened into focus. For years, the HOA had bullied homeowners into believing they controlled everything, even our trees and paint colors. But now, they had made their biggest mistake, assuming my lake was community property. It wasn't. The deed was clear, notarized, and signed decades before the HOA even existed. I called the county registrar's office to confirm, and after 20 minutes on hold, a calm clerk said, "Yes, ma'am, Lot 11's deed includes the entire lake. You're the sole owner of the water rights." I nearly laughed out loud. Then I called my lawyer, Martin Pierce, a man who loved HOA disputes almost as much as golf. He listened carefully, then said in that slow, deliberate tone he used when he was about to destroy someone legally, "If those yachts are parked there without your consent, they're considered trespassing vessels. You have every right to impound or seize them under property and maritime law." The words impound or seize echoed in my head like music. That evening, I drafted a formal notice addressed to Gina and the HOA board, printed in bold letters. "Notice of unauthorized occupation and trespass. You are hereby ordered to remove all unauthorized vessels from my private property, Lot 11, within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in legal seizure and storage of said vessels at the owner's expense." I made 35 copies, one for each yacht owner, and taped them on the docks. The sound of the tape slapping against the metal poles felt like small victories. By morning, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. Screenshots of my notice spread like wildfire, accompanied by gossip and disbelief. Gina texted me directly, "Emma, let's be reasonable. You can't just take people's boats." I replied with one sentence, "Watch me." For 2 days, I waited. The lake remained crowded, the owners ignoring my warning. One man even hosted a barbecue on his decked yacht like it was a floating palace. So I made the next call to a marine towing company. When I told the dispatcher what I needed, he paused. "You want to impound 35 yachts? That's ambitious." I smiled. "I'm not ambitious, I'm just done being walked on." That night, Under the moonlight reflecting off the crowded lake, I stood on my porch and whispered to myself, tomorrow this lake becomes mine again. The morning sun blazed through a hazy mist, lighting up the lake like a spotlight on a stage. The yachts gleamed in rows, white, polished, proud, completely unaware of what was coming. At exactly 9 a.m., the rumble of diesel engines echoed down the road. 2 tow trucks, a crane, and a flatbed trailer rolled up, escorted by my lawyer Martin and a local sheriff's deputy. I could already see curtains twitching in every lakeside home. The neighborhood loved a show, and today I was giving them one. I met the tow crew by the dock. You have the paperwork? I asked. Martin nodded, handing the deputy a thick folder. Signed court authorization for removal and seizure of trespassing vessels. All legal, all official. The sheriff gave a short nod. Proceed. As the crane's arm extended over the first yacht, a $400,000 monster named Serenity Bay, a man in a polo shirt sprinted from his porch. Hey, you can't touch that, Martin calmly read from the document. This vessel is trespassing on private property. The owner was given 48 hours to comply. Removal is authorized under section. The man's protest drowned beneath the metallic clank of the crane chain locking onto his yacht's bow. The entire neighborhood gasped as the boat lifted, water streaming off its hull like tears. I stood back, arms folded, heart pounding. The sight was glorious. Gina appeared moments later, storming down the hill in heels and fury. Emma, what the hell do you think you're doing? Enforcing my property rights, I said simply. She shoved a phone in my face. You're going to regret this. The HOA board will sue you for every penny. Martin didn't even blink. We'll see you in court. Preferably after you've read the deed you keep ignoring. By noon, the first 5 yachts had been hauled away, engines humming down the street. HOA members stood helplessly by, faces pale, whispering to one another. The second wave of removals went faster, the crew working with the rhythm of practiced efficiency. Some owners finally relented, calling to make arrangements themselves, desperate to avoid extra fees. Others screamed threats or tried to block the trucks, only to be escorted aside by the deputy. Every engine rev, every splash of water from the lifted boats, felt like justice roaring through my soul. By sunset, the lake was empty, silent except for the ripple of returning fish and the gentle hum of crickets. Gina stood at the dock's edge, defeated. You can't keep them, Emma. I turned to her, calm and steady. Maybe not, but I can charge storage, $500 a day per yacht. Her jaw dropped. I smiled. You said it was mutually beneficial, remember? The next few weeks were a storm of legal noise, HOA meetings, furious emails, and desperate attempts to twist the narrative. Gina tried everything. She called emergency board sessions, filed community misuse complaints, and even contacted the local news claiming I had kidnapped boats. But paperwork speaks louder than gossip. My lawyer Martin handled every letter with surgical precision. Every time they accused me, he countered with a statute, a signature, and a smile. Finally, the court date arrived. The hearing room was packed, yacht owners in suits, HOA members whispering in the back, and me, sitting calm in my blue blazer. When the judge entered, the entire place fell silent. Martin rose first. Your Honor, this case is simple. The HOA and its president, Ms. Gina Patterson, unlawfully rented and stored 35 yachts on private property, belonging solely to my client, Ms. Emma Blake. The deed predates the HOA, giving her exclusive ownership of the lake. These vessels were trespassing, and my client acted fully within her rights. Gina's attorney stumbled through his rebuttal, waving HOA bylaws and mumbling about community benefit. The judge stopped him halfway. Are you suggesting the HOA has authority over private, deeded property? He stammered. Well, it was for temporary use. Temporary or not, the judge interrupted. They violated private ownership and profited from it. The gavel struck once, judgment in favor of the plaintiff. Gina's face drained of color. The verdict ordered the HOA to pay damages for property misuse, legal fees, and, most satisfying of all, $148,000 in accumulated storage charges for the seized yachts. When we walked out, Martin clapped my shoulder. Congratulations, Captain. I laughed. Captain of Justice, maybe. Word spread fast. Within days, HOA members resigned, and Gina vanished from the community chat like she'd never existed. The lake, my lake, returned to its natural peace. No engines, no ropes, no entitlement. Just the sound of water brushing against the dock. A week later, I filmed my closing video for Karen Diaries. I set the camera on the porch rail, framed the lake behind me, and spoke directly into the lens. When the HOA crossed the line, I didn't yell, I didn't argue. I used their own rules and the law they ignored. Sometimes power isn't loud and it's legal. I smiled, raised a cup of coffee, and let the camera capture the golden sunset, glittering across the calm surface of the lake. Finally, beautifully mine again. The screen faded to black, and the closing text appeared. They parked on my piece, I parked justice on theirs.